Welcome to A Quick Note, your go-to channel for succinct insights into intriguing stories. Today, we delve into the chilling tale of Pedro Lopez, infamously known as the Monster of the Andes. A serial killer who terrorized South America, Lopez's crimes are as haunting as they are perplexing. But before we unravel the mysteries surrounding his dark deeds, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to A Quick Note for more captivating content. Back in the late 1970s, something really alarming happened in Peru. A bunch of young girls disappeared, and nobody paid much attention at first because many of them were either street kids or part of indigenous tribes. But then, something shocking went down one day. A bunch of Ayachuco's folks saw a creepy guy named Pedro Lopez trying to snatch a 9-year-old girl. Luckily, they stepped in and saved her from that scary situation. But here's where things took a wild turn. Instead of handing Lopez over to the cops, the tribe folks went a bit rogue. They gave him a beating, took away his clothes, and even began burying him alive. Imagine that, a slow and painful way to go. Lucky for Lopez, an American missionary stumbled upon this intense scene. This missionary talked some sense into the tribe members and got them to report Lopez to the police instead. Close call for everyone involved. Can you believe what happened next? So, they finally caught Lopez in Ecuador in 1980 and slapped him with charges. But get this, he only got a 16-year prison sentence. Shockingly, he got out early in 1994, claiming to be all good and well behaved. However, that freedom didn't last long because he got nabbed again for being an illegal immigrant. They kicked him out of the country and sent him packing back to Colombia, where they stuck him in a psychiatric hospital. The guy's journey is just full of twists and turns. Believe it or not, Lopez pulled off another shocker. In 1998, they said he was perfectly sane and let him out again. The last anyone saw of him was in 1999. Can you guess what happened next? Yup, suspicions of more murders started swirling around him, but here's the crazy part, the infamous Monster of the Andes has managed to stay under the radar. No one has been able to catch up with him since then. The mystery continues. The tumultuous early life of Pedro Lopez. Pedro Lopez came into this world on October 8, 1948, in Santa Isabel, Colombia. His start was tough. His dad, a member of a right-wing party, lost his life about 6 months before Pedro was born. This tragedy happened during La Violencia, a brutal 10-year civil war in Colombia, between the conservatives and liberals from 1948 to 1958. La Violencia was no joke, it claimed over 200,000 lives. The violence ramped up under the rule of Laureano Gómez, a hardcore leader aiming for authoritarian control. But, as fate would have it, he got toppled by a military coup, bringing his power trip to a crashing end. Even after the fighting slowed down, the effects lingered, leaving a lasting mark on Colombia. The impact stretched across all aspects of life, including the economy. It was a tough backdrop for Pedro Lopez's early years. In the midst of all this chaos, Pedro Lopez, the seventh among 13 siblings, had a tough upbringing marked by poverty and disorder. Surprisingly, despite his challenging circumstances, Lopez was known as a kind and well-mannered child with big dreams of becoming a teacher. However, he later revealed a darker side of his childhood, sharing that his mother was abusive towards him and worked as a sex worker, facing frequent mistreatment from her clients. The reasons behind Lopez leaving home as a young child are a bit murky. Some stories suggest his mother kicked him out at the tender age of 8, catching him inappropriately touching one of his sisters. Others say he simply ran away. Regardless, young Lopez ended up in Bogotá, the capital city of Colombia, finding himself living on the streets alongside other homeless kids. Life took an unexpected turn for him. Like many unhoused youths in the area, Lopez joined a gang and got involved with drugs. At one point, Lopez, a seemingly kind stranger, offered him a place to stay for the night, and then sexually assaulted him. When he was 10 years old, Lopez met an elderly couple who offered to give him a home and enrolled him at a school for orphaned children. Unfortunately, Lopez's chance at a better life was once again destroyed when, at age 12, he was molested by one of the school's teachers. He promptly ran away from the school and went back to living on the streets. By this point, Lopez was broken, yet hardened, and he began to speak often of getting revenge for the pain that he had suffered as a child. In 1969, Pedro Lopez faced a new chapter when he got arrested for auto theft, landing a 7-year prison sentence. However, his time behind bars brought more darkness as he became a victim of sexual assault by several other inmates. In a shocking turn, Lopez took matters into his own hands, using a makeshift knife to retaliate, slashing the throats of his attackers. This brutal act earned him additional time behind bars, approximately 2 more years, for the killings. The prison environment proved to be another harsh chapter in Lopez's troubled journey. Pedro Lopez's brutal murder spree begins. Released from prison in 1978, Pedro Lopez embarked on a horrifying journey, fueled by a newfound taste for violence. His intense hatred for his mother, and by extension, all women, coupled with a distorted view of women due to a pornography addiction, set the stage for a disturbing path. However, instead of directing his anger towards adult women, Lopez turned his sinister intentions towards young girls in the Ayacucho region of Peru. He specifically targeted girls from indigenous communities, especially those in remote areas. His sinister approach involved luring them with gifts, focusing on those who appeared to have a certain look of innocence. It marked the beginning of a chilling series of abductions and killings that would terrorize the region. After luring a victim away from her loved ones and local community, Lopez explained, "I would take her to a secret hideaway where prepared graves waited. I cuddled them and then raped them at sunrise. At the first sign of light I would get excited. I forced the girl into sex and put my hands around her throat. When the sun rose I would strangle her." Lopez delighted in watching a certain light go out in his victims' eyes, but his murderous rituals didn't end with the young girls' deaths. He would then violate their dead bodies before hiding or burying the corpses before he went after his next victims. He also noted that he never kidnapped or killed white girls because their parents were too watchful. During his reign of terror in Peru, Pedro Lopez claimed to have committed the gruesome act of murdering more than 100 girls between the ages of 9 and 12. This horrifying spree earned him the chilling moniker of the Monster of the Andes. The wave of terror finally hit a roadblock when a group of Ayacucho's indigenous people discovered Lopez as he was attempting to lure away a 9-year-old girl from their community. This intervention marked the end of his string of murders in the region. In a harrowing turn of events, Pedro Lopez found himself facing the consequences of his horrific actions. He recalled, "Indians in Peru had me tied up and buried in sand to my neck when they found what I had been doing to their daughters. The enraged community had taken extreme measures, even placing syrup on him, intending to let ants consume him." However, Lopez's near-death experience took an unexpected turn when an American missionary lady arrived in her jeep. She made a promise to the enraged community that she would turn him over to the police. This intervention not only saved Lopez from a gruesome fate but also set the stage for his eventual capture and legal repercussions for his heinous crimes. The situation took a surprising turn when the Ayacuchos, reluctantly agreeing, allowed the woman to take Pedro Lopez to the police. They dug him up and returned his belongings. However, as Lopez and the American woman walked away, accounts vary. Some suggest that she never handed him over to the police, while others claim that Lopez was indeed turned in but managed to escape during the process, possibly as he was being transferred to Ecuador. The details surrounding this part of the story remain somewhat unclear. The capture and eventual release of the monster of the Andes. During the late 1970s and 1980s, a disturbing pattern emerged as more and more young girls went missing in Colombia and Ecuador, coinciding with Pedro Lopez's movements. However, law enforcement initially attributed these disappearances to human trafficking or children running away, lacking evidence of a serial killer. The perspective shifted in 1979 when a flash flood in Ambato, Ecuador revealed the grim truth: the bodies of 4 young girls. This shocking discovery prompted a re-evaluation of the cases. When locals reported seeing Lopez leading a 10-year-old girl away just days later, the pieces began to fall into place. The police swiftly apprehended Lopez, and an undercover investigator played the role of his cellmate to extract a confession. In their shared cell, Lopez ended up revealing the horrifying details of the brutal rapes and murders he had committed. Pedro Lopez eventually guided the police to a mass burial site, revealing the chilling reality that he had dumped the bodies of 53 of his victims. However, his macabre confession didn't end there. A few months later, Lopez claimed responsibility for many more deaths, asserting the total number to be over 300 according to his count. Yet, some experts cast doubt on his claims, suggesting that the actual number of victims may be closer to 70. In 1980, Pedro Lopez faced justice, being convicted for the murder of 110 people. He received the maximum prison term allowed under Ecuadorian law at the time. Shockingly, this punishment amounted to only 16 years. He was released 2 years early in 1994 for good behavior and deported back to Colombia. Despite expectations that he would face the firing squad for his crimes in Colombia, prosecutors were unable to build a solid case against him, allowing Lopez to escape further legal consequences for his heinous acts. The legal saga surrounding Pedro Lopez took another bizarre turn when a judge declared him insane, leading to his placement in a psychiatric hospital. However, in a surprising twist in 1998, the hospital unexpectedly declared Lopez sane and released him. Although he was required to report to the police monthly, he failed to comply. In 2002, Interpol issued a new warrant for Lopez's arrest, linking him to a fresh murder case. However, the last public sighting of Lopez occurred in 1999 when he renewed his citizenship card in Bogotá. Since then, he has managed to evade law enforcement, leaving a dark cloud of uncertainty around his whereabouts and actions. As of the last known public sighting in 1999, Pedro Lopez's whereabouts remain unknown to this day. The enigmatic nature of his disappearance has added a haunting layer of uncertainty to the story, leaving many questions unanswered about the man infamously known as the Monster of the Andes. And there you have it, the unsettling story of Pedro Lopez, a man who left a trail of horror across the Andes. If you found this quick exploration into true crime fascinating, don't forget to show your support by giving us a thumbs up and subscribing to A Quick Note. We'll be back with more intriguing tales and quick insights. Until next time.